Brown County is raising awareness for crime victims issues as part of National Crime Victims' Rights Week. The Rush Expo Center in Brown County Courthouse will be illuminated with purple lights, also recognizing the 4-year anniversary of Marsy's Law that was passed in 2020 as an effort to protect victims' rights. County Executive Troy Streckenbach spoke about the purpose in saying, quote, "Crime victims are too often the forgotten part of the process. We hope everyone who sees the purple lights at the Rush Expo and the courthouse this week will take time to remember there are hundreds of people who get dragged into the criminal justice system through no fault of their own every day," end quote.